Looking for a visor shade like this for your 650 MT by CFMOTO? I might have the answer. Stick around. This week, we are on the set of my sister channel, Angela's Workbench, where I do model cars and stuff, much like this little Ferrari that I'm working on right now. But today, we are here because I need to do some fine detail work. I have been looking all over for a visor shade for the CFMOTO 650 MT, or 650 Adventura, as it's called here in the States. And I have been unsuccessful. So I found one for the 800 MT. These are all over the place on AliExpress and Temu and all those sites. And this fits the LCD display on the CFMOTO 800 MT, which is approximately 7 3/4 inches wide, according to this. The problem is the CFMOTO 650 MT is only 6 1/4 inches wide, as I have measured. And so then that means that this is too darn big. And they don't make one for the 650 MT. I have no idea why. So I am going to, this week, modify this one to fit the 650 MT. Now, how am I going to do that? First of all, we do not need a bottom, right? I'm going to lose the bottom part altogether. I've already marked a straight line along this edge, and I'm going to cut this bottom part off. We're going to lose the bottom part entirely. The top part, however, of course, we need, because that's the part that's going to shade the LCD. So what I am going to do is, this is approximately 7 3/4 inches, a little more than 7 3/4, and we need it to be 6 1/4. So we need to lose roughly 1.5 inches off of this. So what I am going to do is I am going to make a line here in the middle. And then I'm going to make another line 3/4 inch over here, 3/4 inch over here. I'm going to cut them. Then I am going to glue this back together and make it look nice. And we'll go through all of that. And then this will fit the CFMOTO 650 MT or 650 Adventura. And that is my plan. So a straight cut here, a straight cut here, lose this bottom part. Then we cut and inseam the middle to make it 6 1/4 instead of 7 3/4 inches. And then we will have a visor cover for the 650 MT. Let's get to work. So I have just cut this off, and I did not start the camera accidentally. So all I did was basically just take the cutoff wheel and go straight down. And then same thing here. I went straight so that I could carry this line down. I don't think that it has to be super duper neat and perfectly straight, because once this is on the LCD display, you are not going to really see it that much. The other lines up here, it'll be a little more important to get them relatively straight, because if they're not straight, then when I glue it back together again, I've got to do puttying and a whole bunch of stuff, which I can do. It just makes it a little more difficult. So now I have just the top, right, with no bottom, because we're not going to need the bottom. And so now what I need to do is I need to decide where the middle is on this. So I'm going to say this is 8 inches. So the middle is going to be 4 inches. And this does not have to be exactly perfect. It does not. We're just going to take 1.5 inches out of the middle. You know, somewhere in the ballpark of the middle. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be close. So that is the middle right there. Right? 4 inches in. I've got the metal edge here on the lined up with the edge. And that lines up with the 8, just about. So that is our middle. So then 3/4 of an inch in puts me right there. and 3/4 of an inch the other way. Puts me there. I'm using 3/4 of an inch because I need 1.5 inches. And half of 1.5 inches is 3/4 of an inch. So now this is 3/4. This is 3/4. So this together makes 1.5 inches. And when I take 1.5 inches away from the size, 7 3/4, it gives me the 6 1/4 that I need. So now I should be able to cut that section out, seam this together, and we should be good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of straight lines to attempt to follow while I am cutting with the cutoff wheel. The straighter they are, the more easy this is going to be. So those look fairly straight. This one is a little off. This one needs to be a little bit more like this. There. So when I cut this and then glue it back together again, then we should be ready to go. That's going to look pretty sweet, I think, and be a tremendous help on the bike. A friend of mine has this for his 800, and I am told that it shields the LCD very well. So I've wanted this for the 650 MT for a while. So let us get ready to cut this. Alright, there's one cut made. And then we'll sand it and smooth it all out nice so that they butt together. And probably a little bit of filler. I have plastic filler from all of my model building that I do. It was easy. That looks pretty good. Get rid of this melted plastic. There we go. That's kind of sticking out a little here. Using the cutting wheel to ensure that we have a smooth edge. And that these will fit together, because I got a little bit of wonkiness here. Cool. That looks okay. And should fit. Now that I have removed the 1.5 inches from there we go. So now comes time to put this together, put this back together. So I am thinking it'll be a combination of epoxy. Actually, I'm thinking it'll be epoxy. And what I'm going to do is, because this bottom side won't be seen so much, I'm going to use a small piece of plastic sheet. And I'm going to epoxy that plastic sheet onto here. and that will give me a very significant amount of rigidity, so that this will hold together. And then the top here, I will just I will putty this seam, and then sand it, and then give it a little shot of black paint, and I will have a sunshade for my 650 Adventura. Can't wait. One thing that I thought of that might help with my structural rigidity is a piece of metal wire. And I am going to put this metal wire right in this seam here. I don't want to put it on the back one because that comes into contact with the screen. But I think that this will help give me some structural rigidity, this metal rod, as well as a good way to hold it in the proper position for front and rear this way. That will help it all stay in the proper position. So I think I'm just going to use a small piece of metal rod in there, and you won't even be able to see it once it is all together because it'll be, you know, nestled into that shade part. And I can paint it black, the metal rod, which will make it disappear even more. But so I'm going to mix up some epoxy, and I'm going to start assembling this so that I can get it cured and stuck together very well before I start. I've noticed that one of my cuts is just a little bit not straight. So when I put this together, I think I'm going to have, I don't think it's going to be like that, though it could be. I might have just a little bit of a gap, ever so slight gap, that I will fill with putty and then sand it down and paint it, and then this will be done. So I will get started on mixing up some epoxy. So I now have my epoxy mixed up here. It's just a standard 2-part epoxy. Cures in 5 minutes, so it cures very quickly. And I'm just going to kind of give it a little bit along this edge, though I don't think it'll make contact the whole way. But we can just put it through there, just like that. And then where I'm going to put the metal rod, I will also put a little dab of epoxy. There we go. And we'll put a little bit along this edge as well. There we go. And now we'll use this flat surface as a guide. And we'll drop our metal rod in there. There we go. And we just need to make sure that we are as straight as we can be. There we have it. It's pretty good right there, I think. And it doesn't look like I'm going to have a gap. The cuts are straighter than I thought they were. That looks pretty good right there. And then after, I will, once I am sure that this looks good, as far as straightness goes, I will add a small piece of sheet styrene here. Actually, you know what? I might do the sheet styrene there right now. I think that would be a good idea. So I'm just going to get a small piece of scissor here, and get a small piece of sheet styrene. I don't want it to be it doesn't need to be very big. It just needs to basically just act as and again, that'll be painted black when the time comes. That'll be painted black, so you won't see any of this, but it will give it some extra structural rigidity and hold it together. And that is looking very good. We'll just let that cure up. So I've been just giving this a light sand to get a look at that seam. And this looks good. This is strong enough. The adhesive tape goes along here that it came with. Obviously, I'll have to cut it to size, but that'll be easy. So the adhesive tape goes there, so it will be held on all three sides by and I have more than enough structural rigidity here. So this is good. So I'm just going to putty this little gap here with some plastic putty that I use in my model building when I'm doing body work. And then from there, we just basically just take it to paint. So I'm going to get the putty out, and we'll put a little putty on there and let it cure. And then I'll sand it smooth and take it to primer and paint. So I now have my putty out. So I'll just take a little bit of putty on a knife blade. The knife blade makes a nice applicator. And there we go. I'll let that cure. It cures fairly quickly, half an hour or so, and we'll be ready to sand it and then go to primer and paint. So I just went down and test fitted this on the bike, and these 2 points do not make contact with the triple tree, but they come close. So I think what I'm going to do is I am just going to cut these corners square and straight and remove them. And I was thinking that a pair of nippers would work okay. So I was thinking that a pair of nippers would get this job done, but these nippers are having a hard time making it through the plastic. So I'm wondering if maybe I either need my sharper, better nippers, which are right here. Oh, yeah, and that's the case. But my sharper, better nippers are smaller. I'll try. Here we go. And we'll just trim that up a little bit. There we go. Yeah, wow, what a substantial difference between these nippers and my other nippers. All right, there we go. So again, I didn't need to, I didn't have to cut those off because it didn't make contact with the triple tree, but it was too close for my liking. So having the bottom be just straight instead of having it go to the point is fine. You know, that works too. So we're letting this cure. This is still a little wet. We're going to let that cure a little bit more, and then we're going to sand this. After much sanding, this is what I've got, and it's looking good. So I'm going to give it just a slight coat of primer, and then we're going to go in with some black paint, and this will be ready to be installed on the motorcycle. So let's get to work. So here we are in the Angelo's Workbench spray booth, and I'm just gonna, I've got a little bit of gray primer loaded in my airbrush. I'm just gonna shoot some primer over that metal. And then I'm just going to give this top a little coat of primer. And you'll still be able to see the seam a little bit, but I'm not really worried about being able to see the seam. Really, I'm just wanting to make sure that I prime this plastic, and so that every place that I'm going to paint, so that the paint will adhere to it well. Oh, I am out of primer. Anybody who's wondering, I'm using a project called Stynal Res. It is a water-based airbrush primer. Excellent for plastic. It has excellent adherence to plastic. And that is why I use it in my model car building, because they are made of plastic. Polystyrene, to be exact. Now we'll let that dry, and then I'll go in with a non-water-based paint. Obviously, since this is going to be on a motorcycle and motorcycles get wet, I don't really want to use a water-based paint. I'll use a some sort of lacquer in black. I'll have to dig through my paint stash and see what I have. I know I have some lacquer black, and then I'll mix up a little bit of lacquer black, and we will paint this black, and then it will be going out and getting installed on the 650 Adventura. The primer has cured, and I have decided to go in with some of this. This is rated for plastic. It has the paint and primer all in one, but I chose to apply a little primer anyway. I'll go ahead and turn on the exhaust fan. When you're applying spray paint, the trick is to apply it from a far distance back and very light coat. So I'm shooting from all the way back here, and I'm not even looking for full coverage yet. I'm just looking to put a little bit of paint on it, that's all. There we go. I want to get that just a little bit of paint. There we go. I'll go in with the full coverage coat after. Right now, I just want to get some paint on it and get it cured. There's some paint on it, and it's cured. So we'll let that gas out and cure for about 15-20 minutes, and then we'll come in and we'll do another light coat. It's been drying for a while. Time for our next light coat, because we don't want to start a run, but we can get full coverage on this coat this time. There we go. And again, from a good distance away, we just give it a shot. That is that. That looks good. No runs, no drips, and we'll let that cure. So the paint has cured. I have a light shade for my LCD now, for my 650 Adventura. That looks great. So now we are just going to, I have already cut these self-adhesive strips to fit. And so we are just going to go in and stick these here. There we go. And now I've got one for this side here. If I can get the paper off. There we go. And we will just put this in here. We need to make sure that we are all the way out of view. We don't want to look at the back of a piece of sticky tape sticking out past the edge of the plastic here. We don't want that. And I'm going all the way around for maximum adhesion. I probably could have got away with just a couple little pieces. But like I said, I wanted maximum adhesion. I'm going to cover as much of it as I can to ensure that this doesn't move or come off while I'm riding. We cannot have that. So there, that's ready for installation on the bike. And it'll be as simple as peel and stick it on, and that'll be that. Let's go stick it on the bike. We are out here in the garage now at the 650 Adventura, or 650 MT. And you can see here that here is my LCD light shade is ready to be installed. So I'm just going to go ahead and peel in all of the backs of all the paper that's on the off of the adhesive, and then we're going to stick this on here. And I'm going to try to not litter these all over the place. There we have it. So now this is ready to be installed, and it fits perfectly, by the way. And it just goes on. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so that's that. Let's see how it looks when we turn on the key. Ah, you can still see the LCD very nicely. All right, let's get a few pictures. And that's a good job done. That will help on bright sunny days because the sun does make it harder to see. And this is a great product, and I don't know why they don't offer it for the 650 MT, but they do for the 800. And with these simple modifications, you can outfit it for your 650 Adventura or 650 MT. Here we are with some still shots of the light shade on the LCD on the 650 Adventura or 650 MT as it is called. I can't say enough how useful this product is, especially on bright sunny days, to increase the visibility of the LCD. Why they only make one for the 800 MT and not for the 650, I will never know. But now here, following these step-by-steps, you can make one too. That's going to wrap up this video on converting a light shade for a CFMOTO 800 MT to the 650 MT or 650 Adventura. Go ahead and like, share, comment, subscribe. All of those things help my channel. Feel free also to check me out on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, all as Angelo's Motorcycle. See you next week.